evening runners, and welcome back to another video from me, that running girl. It has been so long since I made a video on this channel. A few of my subscribers have been saying, where are you? Are you still there? Are you still running? Are you still making videos? I have just been very busy with work and very busy with running, and I think I mentioned on this channel before, I only really make videos when I actually have the time to do it, which makes a lot of sense. So at the moment I just haven't had time to do it, and as you can see, I have been busy dyeing my hair this apricot colour as well, which looks really crazy under this light. It doesn't actually look this Halloween-y in normal light, but it's quite apt because tonight is Halloween, so ooh. Anyway, on with the video. Today's video, I thought I would bring you a review on the Garmin Forerunner 35, which is the watch that I have switched to since I stopped wearing my Nike Plus GPS. Now, if you've watched this channel for a while, you will know that I basically went through a phase where it felt like my entire running toolbox, if you will, was being discontinued. So first of all, they discontinued the Nike Lunar Racer, and then they discontinued the iPod Shuffle, and then they discontinued the Nike Plus GPS running watch that I used to use, you know, on a daily basis in all my training and racing. And the thing is, I have used both those shoes and that music listening device, and I can't even remember what I'm saying. The shoes, the music listening device, and the running watch. I've used those for nearly 10 years, so it was just a big adaptation really when it came to changing them, and as someone who doesn't do very well with change, I was just in a bit of a kind of state of, oh, I don't want to change, you know, what if the thing that I'm using isn't as good, and blah blah blah, as we all are when we get into a bit of a rut and a bit of a, oh no, change, oh, what am I going to do? But fortunately it has been good, because I have had an extremely positive experience with the Garmin Forerunner 35, which I will talk you through now. So I got this watch about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago. I was slightly cautious that it was going to be too entry level for my requirements, and by that I don't actually mean that I'm not someone who runs and needs to look at geeky statistics all the time. I'm not someone who's like, oh, I need to look at, you know, what pace I was running for that mile split, or I need to look at that certain elevation, or I need to look at this and that and blah blah blah. And I need to look at my heart rate profile, and I need to look at this so I can train in this zone, and I can hit that pace, and I can do that, and you know, that can translate to that race. And I'm not a runner who does that kind of thing. I do measure my daily, when I go running daily, I measure my pace and my distance, and I generally know, because I've been living back here now for just over a year, I know the kind of profile. I know the kind of profile of runs that I'm running, so I don't really need to look at the elevation, because I know roughly the kind of elevation profiles anyway. But I'll talk you through that in a minute. So yeah, I don't know, I just thought that it would be a bit, not cheap, because I think it was about £120 or £110 on offer on Amazon UK. But I remember my Nike one was about £170, and even though that's not that much of a leap in price, sometimes that next bracket of price, that kind of next tier of running watches, you know, in the kind of price, when you're talking about pricing, can just mean the difference between something that's really basic and a bit kind of amateur feeling, or something that, you know, you can rely on all the time, like I did with the Nike Plus GPS, which was a big reason why I just didn't want to give it up, because it was just the most reliable thing ever, and yeah, it was just so rapid in response of moving pace and just really accurate, and I just relied on it so much, and it was just really good for me. Anyway, the main advantages I like about this watch, ironically, I was worried about it being too simple, but I actually like the simplicity of it, ironically. So basically, you can configure it different ways, but basically I just have the time and the date on it, as you can see. As you can see there, backwards. And then basically it just has like history, activities, and you can scroll through, I think you can scroll through about a week's worth of runs that it stores in the watch. And then it just wipes them off. So if you want to look at anything more, you have to like plug it into the computer in Garmin Connect, which you can download on the Mac and Windows. I think you can download it on your phone too if you have a smartphone. But basically, yeah, it's just really simple. You literally just, if you want to go for a run, you literally just hit the, I'll show you here. You literally just hit run outdoor, and then you hit enter, and then it says wait, and then it probably won't come up now because I'm inside, but it usually just says start, and you just click go, and then yeah, it just it displays the distance and the time elapsed at the top and the pace, and the moving pace, it has been quite accurate, but I find that the moving pace is not quite as precise as the Night Plus GPS. So the Night Plus GPS, I really liked the moving pace on it because first of all it was really accurate, but secondly it was really precise. So for example, if you're running 7 20-minute mile, it would say like 7 20-minute mile, 7 21-minute mile, 7 19-minute mile, 7 24-minute mile. So it would go up in like seconds, whereas the Garmin Forerunner 35 goes up in like 5-second, it jumps like in 5-second gaps. So for example, it won't say 7 21-minute mile, it won't say 7 22-minute mile, it won't say 7 23-minute mile. It will either say 7 20-minute mile, 7 15-minute mile, 7 10-minute mile, 7 25-minute mile. Do you see what I mean? It just goes up like in fives. But it's worth noting that it only does that for moving pace. So when you stop your run, which again is really easy to do, easy to pause, easy to stop, easy to restart. When you stop your run, the average time it gives you actually is as precise as the night one. So your average time will be like 7 24-minute mile or 7 56-minute mile. It doesn't give you those 5-second and 5-minute gaps on the average pace, which is actually quite good because it kind of teaches you not to get too obsessed with moving pace, which was something that I was really obsessed with. So it's actually quite good in a way. So yeah, another thing I really like about the watch is I feel like it's a really quite attractive piece of wearable tech. Now, with my Nike Plus GPS, it was very bulky and cumbersome, and it stuck out a bit like a washing machine on my wrist because it was quite bulky and quite thick, and the strap was sort of white and a bit like a stormtrooper, and it kind of fell apart at the seams, so I had to keep gluing it back together. So it was like glue all like hanging off it, so I couldn't really wear it with like normal clothes and be like, oh, like, hey, look at me just like rocking my GPS, because like basically it just made me look a bit like a hobo, which is not true about the Garmin Forerunner 30. The Garmin Forerunner 30 I feel is a really sleek, nice looking piece of kit, and it sits on small wrists like mine, as you can see, really nicely. Yeah, it's very lightweight. I love the colour. The colour is very me. It's actually the colour of my company branding of my own website, but I won't bore you with those details. But yeah, I really like the sleek profile of it. Another thing I like about it is that you can plug it into, it syncs with all the apps, which the Night Plus GPS didn't used to do. So it syncs firstly with Garmin Connect, which is obviously the software that you sync it with to look at like data and statistics about your run. So you can do that both on your smartphone and on your Mac and on Windows. But also it syncs to things like Strava and, you know, popular comparative sports sites like that, where you can have a bit of gamification with like other users and runners and be a bit competitive if that's what you want to do, whereas the Night Plus GPS did not do that. I think it did, but I think you had to download like a plugin, and you know, it wasn't like a straightforward thing, whereas this is a really straightforward thing because it's actually geared and optimized to be like used with these apps. I'm trying to think of a drawback on the watch. I can't actually think of one. The backlight on it is really good as well. I will show you. Ooh, here we go, Halloween special. The backlight on it is really good too, and it lasts a decent amount of time when you're outside in the dark before you have to switch it again. And again, it's actually better than my Night Plus GPS in a way, because the Night Plus GPS, to actually operate the backlight, you had to just like smack the face of the watch like that, and sometimes it wouldn't work, so you'd literally just be outside running, like looking like you've got some sort of like anger issues, just like hitting your arm. Whereas this one, it's just like, oh, just a subtle touch of the left button and the backlight comes up, which is nice. So yeah, that's good. I would say the battery life, if there was maybe one drawback, I don't think the battery life is as good as I was expecting initially on it. I mean, I charged this up about 2 days ago and it's nearly completely out of charge. Now that might just be me being a bit like expecting too much of things, not like me at all. But yeah, I think the battery life could be extended a bit, but realistically, if you just charge it like every day and a half or something, I mean, I run like 10k roughly every day and like a long run on a Sunday, and I think it's only run out on me once. And it also, touch wood, has not had any like hiccups, or it hasn't just stopped working, or it hasn't rained and then stopped working, which the Night Plus GPS always used to do. Like the Night Plus GPS, you only had to sweat on it like once for it to just completely just throw a tantrum and stop working, and then you know you had to hold it a certain way, like when you plugged it into the computer, and just cross your fingers that it actually charged. And looking back on it, it was actually quite temperamental. So that's another good thing about this watch, is that when you plug it in and you charge it up, there's never any issues. There's never any like connectivity issues, like the sort of chip, the little pin, I don't know what it's called, the little sort of gripper thing with the USB charge thing on it, like just connects to it really easy, and it just charges up really easily. So that's not an issue either. I've used it in all of my hair looks so orange. I've used it in all of my runs and all of my races recently. So I recently ran my 25th marathon, which I might do a video about, because I prepared for this marathon the best that I have actually ever prepared for a marathon, and ironically I felt really, really, really good physically in the marathon, but mentally I just completely fell apart from about 10 miles. And I don't know, I just felt like there wasn't really any magic in the race, and I didn't really feel excited during the race, and I just felt very alone in the race, and very like, almost like it was a very long training run, and I was just questioning like, why am I doing this? I don't know whether I'm a bit kind of burnt out mentally from training, but I just didn't have a very good race. I ended up running 3:28, which was enough for me to get gold in the senior county championships. I haven't got my gold medal yet. I think it's coming in the post shortly, so watch this space. And if you follow me on Instagram, I will post about that. But this is my This is my medal from my 25th marathon, the Abingdon Marathon. So realistically, I'm trying to think of it like with perspective, because if you think of most things in perspective, I think generally you get a bigger kind of picture view on things, and it's always best to kind of reflect on things that way. So realistically, if I think about it and have some perspective, only, I think it's less than 1% of the entire population ever run a marathon. So to have run 25 marathons by the time I'm 32, I think that's quite an accomplishment. And I think also sometimes as runners we just put so much pressure on ourselves, and especially where I live in Oxfordshire, in England, is quite a high standard of runners, and the road racing scene is a very high standard, and there's lots of extremely capable, incredible athletes, and I'm lucky enough to be friends with some incredible athletes, and as amazing as that is and inspiring as that is, sometimes it does make you feel a bit like lesser in your ability if you're not quite at their level yet, and maybe you won't ever get to their level, but sometimes if you're having a bit of a bad time in training, or kind of motivational, or issues with the kind of natural talent that you've been given versus their natural talent, or all those kind of things, it can be a bit detrimental. But I will do a video on that shortly. I wonder how long this is going to take to upload, because I have actually got fibre broadband now, so it's not going to take 6 weeks to actually upload this video. So the next time I actually make a video, I will be able to download it just rapidly, and it won't hopefully I'll be able to upload this in better quality as well, so you'll actually be able to see me rather than 3 pixels that look like me. Anyway, I hope you're all running well. I don't think I've left out anything about the Garmin Forerunner 35. Another thing that was very easy to do was set it up, which I was a bit apprehensive about doing, because sounds really sad, but I always used to get my ex-partner to set up my device for running, because I'm not a tech phobe, but I'm not very good with that kind of thing. Sometimes I'm not very good with practical things, especially things that are a bit new and a bit confusing and a bit logical. Like sometimes my brain works a bit differently to how other people's brains work, which can sometimes mean that I find it a bit problematic to do things like that. But it's all swings and roundabouts, because I have different strengths in different areas, which I may go into another time in another video and explain that too, because that's a whole other story. Anyway, I hope you're all running well. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Remember to follow me on Instagram still. I cannot insert the link here because I'm still using a really basic photo booth uploading device, because I still don't have my slick Photoshop and iMovie editing suite anymore, because I've gone back to old school ways. So remember to follow me on Instagram. My name is That Running Girl, which is the same as it's spelt on YouTube, and I hope you're all running well, which I've said 1,000 times, but I will say it again, and I will see you in my next video.